Namaskar viewers, hello and welcome to this special pre-budget episode of Sansad on Sansad TV. I am Tina Jha. Now, as you're all aware, the budget session of Parliament will convene on the 31st of January. In line with the convention, the session will start with President Draupadi Murmu's address to a joint sitting of the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, followed by the tabling of the economic survey. The union budget for the financial year 2025-26 will be presented in Parliament on the 1st of February. This will be the second budget of the BJP-led NDA government since its re-election for a third term in 2024. For Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, this will be her 8th budget presentation. So ahead of the budget presentation, expectations soar across sectors as it outlines a comprehensive plan for economic development and key reforms to foster inclusive and sustainable growth. To talk about some of the pre-budget discussions and expectations related to the electronics and IT sector, I'm pleased to welcome Mr. S. Krishnan, Secretary in the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India. Thank you, sir, for your time. Welcome to Sansad TV. You know, as the budget nears, anticipation runs high, especially among the citizens, the industry leaders, all the stakeholders concerned in the budget about what the finance minister is going to announce, how the budget is going to impact them. If I talk about the electronics and IT, we see the numbers. The ministry, in fact, was allocated a sum of 21,936 crores in the 2024 budget. Now, this was a significant increase if we look at the previous year's numbers, which was 16,549 crores. We understand this was done to drive forward the digital transformation that India currently is witnessing. A question related to that first, to further advance India's digital economy, what would your expectations be from the budget 2025?
The digital economy is expected to grow to almost $1 trillion by about 2030. The Honorable Prime Minister has set a target for electronics manufacture to try to touch $500 billion from the present level of about $115 billion by 2030, which means that there is a very tall task in terms of what we need to do to encourage electronics production. Likewise, on the non-electronic side, on the ITES side, the big development has been in artificial intelligence, and in March of 2024 we launched the India AI mission, and considerable expenditure is expected to take place in the coming financial year on all of these initiatives. And we expect that with the India Semiconductor Mission also coming on stream fully, with 5 plants being constructed under the India Semiconductor Mission, there will be substantial financial disbursements on that account as well. So the 2 PLI schemes, the PLI scheme for mobile manufacture, the PLI scheme for electronic IT hardware manufacture, the India AI mission, the India Semiconductor Mission, all this together should represent a fairly sizable allocation in the budget for 25-26.
Right, so I'll have pointed questions on all of these aspects that you've discussed, beginning with the semiconductor. In fact, I was reading that an important reason for the significant increase in the allocation to the ministry was attributed to the modified program for development of semiconductors and display manufacturing ecosystem. If you could give us and our viewers an overview of what this program is all about. Also, how is it accelerating our efforts to build an ecosystem which makes India a global player in the semiconductor industry?
See, there is one area which has really been lacking in India over the past 60 years or so. It is actually making semiconductors at scale within India. We have been attempting to do this ever since 1962, when the first attempts were made. And in the recent past, the efforts have really been accelerated with the launch of the India Semiconductor Mission, which includes the scheme that you just mentioned. And we have, in the last year or so, work has commenced on 5 projects which are supported by the India Semiconductor Mission. The India Semiconductor Mission has a total outlay of 76,000 crore, of which about 1,000 crore is meant for the design-linked incentive scheme, which will bring the design ecosystem into India for semiconductors, because we have a large number of engineers trained in semiconductor design in the country already. The subsidy which is available for the other companies comes after this. And it is one of the most generous most ambitious industrial policy programs that the country has ever witnessed, because the government of India pays about 50% as subsidy on a pari passu basis. That is, as the private company spends on the project, we match what they spend in our releases from the budget. So in some ways, it's one of the most generous and also one of the most ambitious industrial policy programs, and we will finally see this dream fructify during the fiscal year 25-26, with the first manufacture of India's own semiconductors on a large scale. Also, we have one fab which is approved among the 5 semiconductor schemes, which is to be built by Tata Electronics at Dholera in Gujarat. The first plant which will come on stream will be the one by Micron, which is being built currently in Sanand in Gujarat, which was launched again by the Honorable Prime Minister, and we should see production at that location during 2025.
So when we are saying we need to establish 10 fabs over the next decade, what is the kind of focused intervention that will be required as the way forward in terms of budget, in terms of policy, also in terms of partnerships, if you could share with us and our viewers?
Let me start with the partnerships. This is technology which currently, in terms of manufacture, has not been done in India. So we would initially require some partnerships. And the technology development is being done in 2 ways. One is Indian companies are entering into technical partnerships with companies from Taiwan, from Japan, and so on, in order to enable manufacture. Micron is an American company which is directly investing in India. And Tata Electronics is setting up one plant where what they have done is they have, in a pilot facility, they have already developed those technologies using Indian, or rather persons of Indian origin who have worked in the semiconductor sector elsewhere in the world. They have brought in people, they brought in more than 100 engineers with a combined experience of more than 1,000 years between them in the semiconductor space to actually work on the design and to have an indigenous technology which can be used in one of their plants. So it's a combination of a number of ways in which we are partnering with people either who are from overseas in terms of companies, or who are persons of Indian origin who have worked in some of those companies before and are now coming back to India to support India's semiconductor mission. So in that sense, the partnerships are quite major. The second part of it is really ease of doing business and making sure that these companies are able to take up their manufacturing activity with the least disruption. This is complex manufacture, high precision manufacturing. Clean rooms have to maintain a very, very high degree of purity. Even when the equipment comes in, you cannot, in normal machinery and equipment which comes, customs would open and inspect even at the port. In these cases, you cannot do that. So it has to be, you have to have a special dispensation to take such equipment to the final place where it is intended to be located in the clean room and open it for inspection. So all these kind of measures are being taken both by the Government of India and by the respective state governments to make sure that there's ease in the way that these companies can establish themselves quickly and they can come up quickly. Another major area is human resource development. As you can well imagine, since we have not been in the space of semiconductor manufacture so far, we do not have enough people in the country who are trained in that area. So there is a massive skilling program which the ministry has already launched, and along with the companies, to train human resources to handle the actual manufacturing process. We are also deputing some of them outside the country to learn in Taiwan, in Singapore and other places. In addition, we have experts coming here to teach at a number of facilities. We have set up in Meiti academic scale fabs, as they are called, in about 6 institutes, Indian Institute of Science in Bengaluru and 5 other IITs, which are also serving to train some of the human resources for this purpose. So all of these efforts are coming together to make sure that our dream of actually manufacturing semiconductors in India is realized.
So from the semiconductor mission, I'll take your attention to the AI mission. AI, of course, is another area where we want India to become a global player. How do you see the upcoming budget build up on the 10,000 crore allocation that we saw towards the India AI mission last year?
I think I should clarify that the 10,000 crore was not an allocation in the budget. It is the total cost of the scheme. Okay. About 500 crores was allocated during the budget for 2024-25. We expect that to be substantially enhanced in 25-26, since many of the activities will really come on stream during 25-26.
Okay. The other aspect that you spoke about was the electronics manufacturing, one area which has seen exponential rise over the last decade. The numbers suggest that the total production has increased from 2.4 lakh crore rupees in 2014 to about 9.8 lakh crore rupees in 2024, and of which mobile manufacturing alone has reached about 4.4 lakh crore rupees. Tell us about what have been some of the key factors which have fueled this upward momentum that we're seeing in electronics manufacturing.
I think one of the key factors has been the mobile PLI, the PLI for large-scale electronic manufacture, which has supported manufacture on such a scale. India was importing about 75% of its mobile phone requirement in 2014-15. Today, we manufacture almost 99% plus of what we need, and we are actually exporting mobile phones. The exports in mobile phones this year will exceed $20 billion from India. And the establishment of these facilities has basically been enabled by the PLI scheme. Today, they are some of the largest factories in India. They employ a large number of people. I have personally seen factories in manufacturing mobile phones which have more than 70,000 people and working there. So in that sense, it's a stupendous achievement in terms of what it has done for employment and what it has done for actually reducing the imports on that score. What we have to do is further deepen the value chain here so that the value addition in India improves and we manufacture more and more of the components in the country as well.
A related question on the expansion of the electronics manufacturing industry. What's interesting is Tamil Nadu, one state where you have served in various capacities, is a leading hub in the electronics manufacturing department. Tell us about what has led to the state today become a leading hub for manufacturing in electronics, and how can the other states also imbibe this success story?
I mean, there are two or three major factors which I would ascribe it to. First and foremost would be, again, the human resources. There is a culture of factory employment and high productivity amongst factory workers in the state. That is something which attracts a number of industries to the state first and foremost. The second thing I would say is a favorable infrastructure situation. It is a coastal state. It has access to a number of seaports. It has access to airports. It has well-developed road infrastructure, communications infrastructure. So that is a second major factor which helps the state. But what a number of companies also tell us is that the government is very responsive in the sense of quickly turning around any requests or any issues that manufacturers have and resolving the issues that they face at the local level to see that they're able to commence operations quickly and seamlessly. So we've had situations where between the time that the decision is made to establish the factory and the time that it comes to production, even very large factories do it in less than a year.
So while the electronics manufacturing industry we are seeing is moving towards achieving the ambitious target of $500 billion in output by 2030, there are several concerns and reforms that they've also highlighted and which they expect the upcoming budget to address. And some of these include challenges like regulatory hurdles, the high tariffs, tax compliance, etc. So we would like to know, how is the government responding to some of these concerns that the industry leaders have raised?
I think we are in regular communication with the various industry associations in the electronic space. MeitY as a ministry has excellent relationship with all of the stakeholders in the industry. They bring these issues to our notice. We are able to take it up on their behalf with other ministries in the government and also with various state governments and other agencies. And we often find resolution to these issues fairly quickly. There are, of course, always issues relating to, taxation and other matters. Even in this budget, we usually, even in the last budget, there were some proposals which we had requested of some rationalization of customs tariffs, which was done. And that is a progressive action which has been going on. There's a systematic and progressive glide path on the tax reforms which is being followed, and the Ministry of Finance has been extremely supportive on that front as well.
Another important area which I think is relevant to the Electronics and IT Ministry is bolstering cyber security defenses, and especially because of the geopolitical landscape that India has, it's important that we have to bolster our cyber security defenses. Tell us about how we are strengthening our cyber security competencies and building capabilities to have a safe digital future.
Yeah, I think we don't live in a particularly friendly neighborhood, and as you pointed out, cybersecurity is a serious concern, and those threats can arise from anywhere in the world. We are acutely conscious of this, and there is a very coordinated effort which is undertaken to ensure that our cyber defenses are in place and cybersecurity is ensured for India's citizens. Recently, the government amended the allocation of business rules to allocate clear responsibilities to various agencies for cybersecurity. The overall coordination role is with the National Security Council Secretariat. The technical part and the statutory requirements under the IT Act towards cybersecurity are to be dealt with by MeitY, the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. Cyber crime is to be dealt with by MHA, the Ministry of Home Affairs, and network security in terms of the telecom network security is dealt with by the Department of Telecom under the Ministry of Communication. So now that this clear allocation is there, there is also a coordination mechanism where we coordinate with each other effectively to receive inputs and then to put in place necessary cyber defenses. There have been a number of events which have taken place in India which came under severe cyber attack and which were protected very effectively by this mechanism, including the G20 summit which was held. Even currently the Kumbh Mela which is in progress. There are cyber security attacks which happen quite frequently, and our agencies are all geared up to handle each of these cybersecurity attacks so that we prevent any inconvenience to pilgrims and others who are attending there. So this is an exercise of constant vigilance. We also have a fairly sound capacity within MeitY in organizations like CERTIN, which is our computer emergency response team for India. In CDAC, the Center for Development of Advanced Computing, 2 or 3 of their centers do excellent work on cybersecurity, including the center in Hyderabad, the center in Trivandrum, and the center at Mohali. Likewise, we collaborate very closely with a number of educational institutions, including IITs and the National Forensic Science University and so on, in making sure that we have a good cybersecurity stance in a number of ways. We also do a lot of research on cybersecurity related aspects, and we collaborate a lot with startups, because cybersecurity is one area, particularly cybersecurity applications is one area where we need domestic solutions. You cannot rely endlessly on solutions which are prepared by other countries, by companies based in other countries, because the context is very specific, the context is very domestic. So we've been consistently encouraging startups in the cybersecurity space to perform effectively. MeitY supports in the Data Security Council of India, which is part of NASSCOM, a center of excellence for developing cybersecurity startups. Recently, we launched the second Cybersecurity Grand Challenge in 6 areas which are of immediate interest to us in terms of improving our cybersecurity stance, where we expect a large number of these startups to participate and take things forward. So, and the last aspect is we also run a program called information, education and security awareness, which is basically targeted at creating cybersecurity awareness across a range. It includes, highest end, we support PhDs, MTechs, BTechs and others in the cybersecurity space, down to the lowest end of actually having awareness of how to use various how to protect your various devices in the cybersecurity space. So it's a very broad spectrum of activities covering from individual citizens who may not have awareness about this to actually developing new technologies and techniques by involving research organizations and highly skilled and trained human resources. So it's a complete gamut of activities that MeitY takes up in this space.
So lots of coordination when it comes to spreading awareness about digital growth, development, addressing concerns of cybersecurity, as you rightly said, coordination with states, and also spreading awareness among the youngsters. So, sir, a lot of our viewers are youngsters. A question which I'm sure they would want me to ask you. You were years ago PS to the finance minister. You've seen the budget making exercise quite closely. If you could share with us a personal experience about how it is like, what is the kind of vibe that one gets during the time when the budget is being prepared?
If it is a question of personal experience, I think the first budgets I made was as a very young officer of the Indian Administrative Service. I was just 3 years into the service when I was thrown into my first budget in a state government. And so I spent about 4 years as a budget officer in the state government and subsequently in the government of India as the private secretary to the finance minister, very hands-on experience there. And finally later as a finance secretary in the government of Tamil Nadu. So I have some first-hand experience of making budgets. It's a very stressful exercise in some ways because it's limited by time. There's a lot which needs to be done, a lot of secrecy which needs to be maintained because earlier it used to be various financial proposals, what would happen if they leak, but a very important consideration is also that it's a matter of parliamentary privilege, that the parliamentarians need to know first in a democracy that what the proposals of the government are. And the budget is given a very pride of place in the Indian constitutional setup. And it's one of the most important parliamentary events that take place in any year, and hence a lot of sanctity is attached to that exercise, preserving the confidentiality, ensuring that everything is done on time, the time period is limited, the printing of the documents is a big exercise. Collating all the information and putting together the information into a format that works is a big exercise. Likewise, in the recent past, we have to achieve certain targets, budgetary targets in terms of what the proportion of fiscal deficit would be, whether we are meeting the borrowing target, whether we are meeting the revenue deficit target. All of these targets have to be met, which means that you have to keep iteratively adjusting various numbers. If something goes up, if you have to make higher allocation for some particular scheme, then you have to either cut somewhere else or make sure that you raise revenues. So this is a very iterative process which goes on. You keep fine-tuning it till you get the numbers just right. And it's very difficult to please everybody, but that is what every finance minister tries to do, try to please all the constituents who are looking for some outcomes from the budget. It's a huge balancing exercise which is done every year, but an extremely interesting and engrossing exercise to be a part of.
And especially when we have ambitious targets to reach, we have to realize the Vision 2047, just a few more years to go, but the task is cut out. It's going to be extremely difficult for the finance minister to rope in all the expectations and hopes that the citizens of the country, that the industry stakeholders and all of the major departments have when it comes to taking India forward. But we'll have to see what she has in store for everyone when she presents her 8th consecutive budget on the 1st of February. So with that, we'll have to wrap up the conversation. Thank you, sir, for your time. Thank you for joining us on Sansad TV. And to you viewers, thank you very much for your time as well.